Everyone. So in this section, hello everyone. So in this section, we are going to discuss about the workflow of internet, how actually the internet works. So let's look at the basic components that you are already familiar. So in your home, you might have noticed this modem and router, right? So all your devices, like a laptop or your phone, all those devices will be connected to wireless router. The wireless router will be connected to modem. So this is how the modem looks like. So it will be connected to modem. The modem is connected to internet service provider like Spectrum, those kind of internet service provider. In your area, there will be internet service provider, and from them we will get the connection, internet connection. So that connections will be there in the modem, and the modem will distribute it like a router. Router will be the responsible device which will connect all the other devices to this to the internet. Okay, so how all these things happen, how all those connection happens. So let's look at the basic, like from the starting. So the internet service provider will give you an IP address. So each modem will be connected with some IP address. So the IP address will be given by the internet service provider. That is the address of us in the internet, like how our physical address has the home a number, a street, and then area, all those informations are that in the physical address. Like that, each IP address has the corresponding location identification address. Okay, so that is there in the IP address. With the IP address, we can locate where is actually the connection is. So each modem will have some IP address. So that router will distribute that IP address to the devices. So all the devices that is connected to a particular modem will have same IP address. Okay. So did you get the workflow? So ISP provider will connect your modem to internet. The modem will be connected to the router. Router is the device that connects all the devices to the modem, that is to that particular IP address. Okay, so that's how we get the access. So if you check your devices, all the devices will have the same IP address because that is the connection. That is the connection identification to the internet. So let's check what is IP. You might be already familiar with this term, but let's see what is actually an IP address is. So each device is connected to an internet has a unique number that is called IP address, right? So that actually specifies the physical location of a device of a modem with the internet. For example, I have given you here some IP address. This is the IP address of excuse me. So the IP address what I have given here is the IP address of Google. So if I copy that IP address, let me pull in the copy. If I copy that IP address and paste it here, do you see what happens? This directs me. So I have just copied that particular IP address and gave it in the URL. It gives me the Google homepage, Google page. Okay, so that means that particular IP address is the address of Google. Okay, so instead of using Google, you can use this IP address, then it will locate Google server, Google page to you. Okay, it's like that. Each server will have some IP address. By accessing that only, we are accessing a particular file from that server. Okay, so let's see how you can check your IP address. So to check your IP address, just say my IP address. Okay, so do you see it will give you this. This is the IP address. This is your IP address of my IP address. This is my IP address, my physical location of my modem to internet. You can check it in your search engine. You can just specify what my IP address, then it will give you a number. At that number is the actual location of your PC, like from which you are accessing the internet. So that is the physical location, that is the location IP address of a PC. Okay, So that is all about the IP address. But are we using all those IP address? Are we using the IP address to access a file? So how are we accessing the file? If we need to remember all those numbers to access a file, then it will be tedious task for us to access any website, right? It is hard for us to remember the number, right? So then how are we? For example, let's see, you have to use this number to access Google every time, then how many of us will access? Like it's kind of hard to remember the numbers, right? So that is the remedy is domain name system. So the domain name system is like each IP address will have some domain name. Okay, so the domain name system will link each IP address to a particular domain. Like for example, this IP address is connected to this domain name, so that we don't need to remember this IP address, but we can just remember the domain name and the search engine will pick the particular page for us. Okay, so the domain name is just like a registry of links, a table of links that connects the IP address to a particular domain name. Okay, so 334 million registered domain names are there according to 2016 statistics. Okay, so you know what is so now you got what is domain name and what is IP address. Okay, so actually let's see the workflow, how it works. So when you actually request a page, for example, let's say you are requesting a Google page. Okay, so when you request a Google page, you will send a search engine. You will use the domain name for the search engine, right? In the search engine will ask the domain name server. So domain name server is just a server which has the information of the IP address linked to a particular domain name. So it will ask the domain name server. The domain name server will look at the registry. If it can find the particular domain name that is connected to that IP address, it will respond back to that browser. That is, see, this particular IP address is connected to, sorry, this particular domain name is connected to this IP address. Then what browser will use that IP address and directly communicate to the particular server which is connected to that, which has that particular IP address. Okay, as a HTTP request, and the server will respond back with the HTTP response. Okay, so this is the full workflow. So you will use domain name to search a website. That particular request will be sent to the nearest domain name server by the browser. If that information, that is the link to that particular domain name, is like is there in the domain name server, then it will directly give the IP address to the browser. If it doesn't find, then it will check the remaining nearby server, and the neighbor server will give the information, then it will store that information, and then it will respond back. Okay, so this is how actually IP address and domain name system works together. I'll repeat. When you actually, so this, let's say this is your web browser, this is you are requesting a domain name, and the domain name system will check for the corresponding IP address. Okay, and then it will respond to the browser, say this domain name is linked to this IP address, but then with that IP address, the browser will send request to that particular IP address, server that is connected to the particular IP address as a HTTP request, and then the server will respond back as a HTTP response. Okay, so all these things takes place in fraction of second, as I have mentioned. That is because the speed, it travels, all those information and data travels with the speed of light. Okay, so the next information. Okay, so next we are going to discuss about top level domain names. Okay, so top level domain names. What is top level domain name? You might have noticed the .com, .gov, .net, .edu, .org, all those all those bits are called top level domain names. Since there are multiple servers and multiple IP addresses to handle, okay, So to make it easier, to make it more organized, we have top level domain name. So each top level domain name will hold the particular domains that is like connected to. For example, thousands of domains are connected to a domain name called cat. So like or arrow. So let's say we have some millions of files, millions of domain names that connected to arrow, and then that top level domain name. So if you use that top level domain name, the server will easily go to that particular server, domain name server, and it can easily pick a particular domain that has stored under that particular top level domain name. Okay, so why do we need to have, why can't we have a single domain, and why can't we have everything in a same, under the same server, same domain name? So the reason is like there are millions of files, millions of websites will be connected to a particular domain. So it is kind of hard. It will create traffic. Okay. For example, when browser requests a particular domain name that is not belong to like a particular thing, the com is kind of a generic server, domain name server. So it will first reach out to a particular domain name server which is nearby. If that particular server doesn't know the actual IP address, then it will check the nearby server. So it will check the nearby server and it will pick the IP address. Okay, so this is how it works. So if you want to know more about the top level domain name server, please refer this website. Okay, so mostly the country website, geographical locations will have this two-letter top level domain names that belongs to a particular country. The UK, if it is India.in, if it is US, it's .us. Okay, so these two-letter domain names mostly belong to a geographical location. So that is about top level domain name. Okay, to make it easy, to make it more organized, to make the domain name and IP address system more organized, we have different top level domain name. Okay, so the next thing we are going to see is URL. What is the full identification? What is the full URL identification? So URL is defined as the global address. It's kind of like how a particular each computer is connected to IP address, like that. Each website has an URL address. So each website access has connected to the URL address. So when you specify this particular URL in the search engine, the server can pick the particular page. It can pick the particular website very easily. Okay, so what are the components are there in the URL? So first thing is protocol. So by following which protocol actually the transmission is happening. HTTP, HTTPS, FTP, all the protocol information should be there here. And this is the World Wide Web, that is the host name, like say everything is under the same host, so www. And this one is a particular name, okay, the website name. And then this one is top level domain name. So like this particular domain name, millions of domain names are connected to this particular domain, top level domain name, that is edu, right? All the educational units is connected to edu domain name, top level domain name. So this is TLD, and this one is a particular location of a directory, a folder. For example, if it is a particular in the institution, let's say the institution name or something, a directory pod, and this is the actual file which you are requesting, that is a web page, actual web page. Each web page is a separate file. So what particular page is getting access, that particular file information, a page information is there here. Okay, so I'll repeat. So this is the URL. So you might have noticed it in your search engine. So the protocol, the www, and the domain name, and the top level domain name, and the directory folder name, and the particular file name. Okay, so this is how actually the URL information. So when you look at the URL, now you should be able to recognize what are the different components. Okay, so the next thing that we are going to see is how domain name this whole system works. Okay, so as I have mentioned before, I'll just do a small review on how it works. So when you put a request in your search engine, a particular website name or particular a keyword you will specify, it will give you the list, and then it will pick particular file, particular website address. So it will reach out to the nearby server with the particular domain name, the URL address. So from that domain name, the domain name server will try to pick an IP address. If it cannot find, it will reach to the nearby server. Okay, somehow it will just get the IP address and respond back to the browser, and the browser will respond get that IP address and reach out to that particular IP address, that is the IP address of a server, actual server where that particular website is located. Okay, so by using HTTP request, the browser will reach out to the server and the server will respond back with HTTP response. So whatever I have explained here, if you want to review, if you want to know more about this, how IP address work, how the domain name system work, please refer this link, the Khan Academy. So you will get a very clear idea how actually these things works. Okay, so to conclude, I'll repeat what is happening actually when you access a particular website, when you provide a particular URL address every time, what is actually happens. Okay, so we'll do a small review on that. So first, the domain name. So when you provide an particular URL, the domain name server is accessed. Okay, so the domain name server will respond back to the browser with the IP address. Okay, so that will be returned. Then by using that IP address, the browser will locate the server. Okay, so the IP address is corresponding to a server, so it will locate a server. So that server holds that particular website or whatever page we want to reach. So that particular server holds that actual file. Okay, so web browser will send HTTP request by using that, and then browser server will respond back with HTTP response. Okay, and then finally the browser will display a particular file in your system. Okay, so this is what happening from the starting to the end. So this is how the internet works. Okay, but can we rely, the information whatever we receive, is it reliable? Okay, so is it reliable? Of course it's not. Like, we have to evaluate the credibility of a site, and also you have to check the ethical. Whenever you access some information, you have to get the copyright information, all those things. You have to be mindful in those things. Okay, so how can we check a reliability? So mostly the information has its own domain name, then mostly it is reliable. Okay, so if it is not a free web server, then you can just rely on the websites which you can rely on the information provided by a website which has its own domain name, and also you can check the domain name, type of the domain name, that is the top level domain name. So if the particular content is related to education, and if that one is belong to the edu top level domain name, then you can rely on that. And also you can check the updation, like if the web page is not updated for long, then it is outdated, it is not a best resource to refer. Okay, so those those are some cyber security information issues and the reliability issues that we are already aware of. Okay, so the next thing that we are going to discuss is the level of accessibility. Whatever you access in Google search engine or any search engine is a surface web concept. Okay, so the search engine can provide only the surface level information. For example, if you want to access your Facebook account or your friend's Facebook account, the browser, the search engine can provide you just a login page of your website, Facebook account. It cannot access your news feed. It can just get the login information, login page. It has the access only up to login page. Deep web, so is kind of this is so only the search engine can access only this kind of info up to this level of information. So you can see the deep level. So 96% of the web content are there in the deep level. So all the academic databases, research databases, medical records, financial records, so everything that has a credential, the account information cannot be accessed by the service web. It is there in the deep web. Okay, for example, you can access the login page in the surface web, but if you want to access the news feed of the Facebook, then you have to access the deep web. How? By using your username and password, you are getting into the deep web. Okay, so like that, everything that is referred with the credential belongs to deep web. There is another web called dark web, which is not accessible by the normal browsers or normal search engine. It should be accessed by a special browser called Tor. Okay, so initially it was developed for government agencies, government activities, but right now it is mostly used for the legal activities and cyber security related issues. Okay, so that is about the workflow of internet. Okay, so in the next section we are going to discuss about markup languages. Okay, see you in the next section.